I'm Leo Waldock for Kit Guru. This case is the Phanteks Evolv ATX Tempered Glass Edition. I know some of you YouTube types don't much like visiting Kit Guru as a website. You watch the video and that's your lot. In this instance, you've got no choice. If you want to see photos of the glass panels that make all the difference with this case, you have to go to Kit Guru, because on YouTube, I can't show you in video because the blooming thing's like mirrors. I've tried putting them on the case and then taking them off. It just doesn't work. You get reflections of the cameras, tripods, lights, and all sorts. So here's a quick look at one of the panels. Thus, mirror, mirror, and I'll put it down. So tempered glass, the entire panel is glass. It's not a panel with a window put in it. The whole thing is glass and it has a sort of black painted border, and you get a tempered glass panel on this side and also on the back. That is pretty much the only difference between this model and the previous Evolv ATX, except they've also added in a block connector for lighting. The RGB lighting strips we've seen before, such as this accessory here, which you can buy in either 1 meter or 2 meter versions, pricing £14 in the real world for the 1 meter and £20 for the 2 meter. You'll probably want 1 meter, which is what I've got here. The thing is, there are 2 connectors because you can put 1 lighting strip on the main side of the case and 1 on the back side. I'm going to reiterate, both sides glass. This, on the one hand, looks absolutely fabulous. Again, photos on Kit Guru. Do visit the website. On the other hand, if you don't sort your cabling out, it looks absolutely rotten. So there is nowhere to hide with. Well, there's one little place to hide with this case, but in broad terms, there's nowhere to hide. You either get it right or it looks like a dog's dinner. So, Phanteks Evolv. I've had my ups and my downs with the Evolv, and I've put my finger on why I've always been impressed by Evolv, but not always loved it. The first Evolv I saw was white. The point with Evolv is aluminium panels. So it was white, it was very shiny. I looked at it, I immediately saw a Stormtrooper's helmet. I couldn't get my head around away from that. That was just how I saw it. And also, when you pick the thing up, the panels are very prone to popping off their mounts. And that was slightly annoying. It happened to me once or twice, and it starts to... The white shiny it looked good, but I didn't love it. Then I saw gunmetal grey and I liked that more, but still wasn't wowed. This is nominally black, but isn't really, and I like it a lot. But the other thing is, those 2 glass panels are held on with thumb screws. They sit on these little sort of bobbiny things here, and then the thumb screws go in. There's rubber sort of mounts in these cushions, so it's all nice and quiet. It works very well. Whereas the previous aluminium panels, they went on hinges and they swung in and locked in place, and that worked. So you swung them out, lifted them off. So the mounting mechanism is different. What it means is you're taking the aluminium out of the equation, and the relatively small window, you change it for glass. It means that the metal is the top panel and the front panel, and they are secure. The top is screwed in place. The front, you have to give it a good heft to get to the full length filter behind. It works well. But the difference between the original Evolv I saw, which was all aluminium was how it felt, and pop-off panels, to this, some aluminium, totally different colour, glass on the sides. If I'd started my experience of Evolv with this case, I would have started from, this is wonderful, rather than, I like it, but I'm not so sure. This, yes, Evolv. It's taken a while to get there, but Phanteks Evolv, I'm really, really going for. So, rewind a year to the previous Evolv, because all the features, apart from the lighting and the glass, essentially are the same, except thankfully I've got more experience with Evolv and how it all works now. So you get 3 140 fans as stock, 2 at the front, 1 at the rear. So if you want to go down this frankly lazy route that I have, with a Gigabyte Z170 motherboard, a Core i7-6700, and a Zeus R9 390 Strix graphics card, and a Corsair H100i liquid cooler, along with a Seasonic 520 watt power supply, and we've also got some Corsair DDR4 memory. It's a very nice PC, it's a very lazy PC, you bung the bits in, it just works. Job done, thank you very much. As I say, I've added in the lighting, which goes to a block connector. I've actually tucked away, done a neat job for once, and that's all lovely. Good PC, plays games, end of story. You'll notice that there we have an SSD mount that is unused. Swing to the back of the case, and you'll see that I've used one of the two SSD mounts there for an OCZ Vector 180 SSD, and down here we have there some drive bays that are free, and that is all fine. So good PC, liquid cooling at the top, you can see the slots and such like for air to flow, and it's all gorgeous. Now on the front there's no optical drive bay. On the front I flip up that cover, and you can see you've got headset jacks and you've got USB ports, USB 3, and we've got this little button here which toggles the lighting, and there we go. Quick press, toggles through 10 different colours. To my mind, the same colours that we saw on a Lux case, what would that be, 2 years ago? If I hold a longer press, and now we're into a different mode. We've got the option of either breathing or cycling, so that's breathing. 2 more seconds, and we should now be cycling through the colours. Very long press, and it will go off. Anywho, not sure what mode we're in now. Point being is, as RGB lighting goes, it's basic, but it does a nice job. The 10 colours are the choices that they are. You have no software control. You control it on the button, and it works. If you want what I would term to be full lighting control, you need a system like NZXT's Hue Plus, which I've used and which is just gorgeous. This, on the other hand, works. Pricing. The original Evolv ATX all aluminium was a couple of pence under £140 in the UK, and it still is that same price a year later. This is slightly more, it's £150. Now the aluminium panels, we know aluminium costs a lot. Glass, on the other hand, costs a heck of a lot, plus you have to be more careful shipping the thing and cutting it and all the rest of it, because obviously glass can break. £150, so in the great scheme of things, 140, 150, whatever, makes no difference. It's giving you a choice. You can either go for aluminium or you can go for glass. The Evolv aluminium panels, I was never wowed by them completely. More impressed. The glass, on the other hand, totally different animal. The spec of the thing, the only complaint I had with the original was that there are actually very few tie-down points on the rear panel. Now you've got the Phanteks Velcro straps, hook and loop straps, which, and I have no idea why this is, they're upside blooming down. You'll note there that they're actually screwed at one end, and then you feed them through and hook them back. So this is how they arrived. They've got the printing upside down. I cannot imagine what they've done. I'm assuming that this is just one of those things and it will be fixed. But tie-down points, there are not very many. Now, considering you want the cabling to be secure, I mean, that's my ATX 12-volt cabling going to the top of the motherboard. Everyone's going to be using something very similar. I would have thought there should be a few more tie-down points, but there are not. Which is not really a major gripe, but it's there. Also, this little slit here, again, Photos on Kit Guru, there's an LED behind. You get the option of switching out the LED for alternate colours, red, green and white. Easy enough, why not? Must be cheap. It's fun. Again, in terms of RGB control, not really, but what the hey. Drive bays. The idea is that if you use the system as is, you've got the two hidden caddies here, or you can... Oh, that's not sliding back as easy as I hope. There we go. Or you can mount drives in these accessory bays, and they supply 3 with the kit, which hook into these slots here. So they're right behind the fans, which is actually good because it means that the cooling air is flowing straight over your drives. It does mean if you want to install any cooling in the front that is a thicker package than those fans, then the bays become unusable. Obviously, if you have, say, a radiator or some such at the top, it means bays potentially down the bottom. If you start to go to 280, then you're blocking out the entire front of the case. You can have 3 120 fans at the front, or 3 120s in the roof, or you can have 2 140s in the roof. You can basically do anything you want with that. Radiator, 360 front, 360 roof. My experience is if you want to do that, you've got to gut the case to do it, pretty much. 280 front or 280 roof is doable. Very much depends on precisely the cooling that you're using. We've had this before, depending on where the hoses come out of the radiator, how rigid they are. If, for example, using EK Predator, that's longer because it has a pump on the end of the radiator. The details start to matter. Going for this Corsair H100, which is a 240, you can see there's bags of space. It's a lazy choice. It works blooming well. I would argue if you're going all in one, you don't need to go bigger than 240. That's my personal choice. If you're going custom, we're into a slightly different territory. So you have the option of whacking in a whole bunch of drive bays there, or adding in some drives here and then populating these SSD drop and lock bays here. If you really want, you can have a drive on show in the front. But the choice of cooling is significant. As I say, this is the lazy route, but there's another way of handling the whole thing. Now, it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that you can build a decent PC into the Evolv ATX glass using an all-in-one liquid cooler such as that Corsair H100i. But this is my take on what the PC should actually look like. This is my own PC. It's built into a Phanteks Pro M case, which is a cheapie at 60 quid. At first glance, it actually looks very similar to the Evolv ATX. Partly that's because I haven't got the side panel on the thing. But also, if you look, you'll see the top isn't angled, so it's mesh on the top with loads of perforations. You haven't got the slots down the side, and also the I/O panel is in a different position. It's there rather than on the front. Other than that, it is very similar. 2 drive bays around this side, a couple of SSD bays around this side, SSD bay there which isn't in use. And you can see you've also got the slots to put in the drive trays here. Now, the way I've built this system is it's an Asus Sabertooth X79 motherboard with a Core i7-3930K 6 core, some G-Skill DDR3 and a GTX 980 graphics card. I've liquid cooled it using the EK Predator that I reviewed a while ago, and I've obviously added a bunch of other stuff to make it into a custom loop. So the graphics is liquid cooled as well as the CPU, and also in this instance the VRMs on the motherboard. If you look very closely, you'll see that the chipset has a block on it, but it's not liquid cooled. And the reason is it makes the plumbing a bit of a pain, plus it doesn't actually strictly need it, but that's a detail. My point is that if you liquid cool with a custom loop inside the Evolv ATX glass, you're going to end up with a very similar system to this. The key points are that it looks pretty funky. You can choose where to put the reservoir, either here or there where I've gone. The Predator is slightly unusual in that the pump is on the radiator. Ordinarily a pump would be on your reservoir. That's a detail. It works out the same. You probably won't be liquid cooling your motherboard. Just the processor and graphics, which is also fine. You'll also see that the radiator basically blocks those 3.5-inch expansion bays slots. So cooling at the front, not at the top, drives around the back. I have the option of adding an SSD. It so happens this PC actually has 4 drives in it. It has one hulking great hard drive, which is it's either a 4 or 6 terabyte, I forget, and 3 SSDs to give me some speedy, snappy storage to handle video and such like. It's a decent PC. The other thing about the cooling is, apart from the fact it's almost silent, is that it idles just above 20-something Celsius. In the UK at the moment it's 16, 17 typically, depending on what the exact time of year, but 16, 17 indoors. And when it's under extreme load gaming, the temperatures don't top 40. That's the huge difference between this custom loop and the all-in-one that you're likely to use in a typical PC. It works magnificently well. The other thing is the lighting that I've used is NZXT's Hue Plus, which is a fab thing. Again, I reviewed that for Kit Guru. Works superbly well. Now, my point here is I built this a few months ago. The window on this case is relatively small because it has a bunch of sort of great big bezel around it. So you don't get to see the hole inside. It's not glass, it's plastic, and the top is less funktastic on my case than it is on the Evolv glass. Also, of course, I had to add lighting. With the Evolv, you get lighting. My point is this: I've come up with this PC, and Phanteks has basically beaten me to it. They've delivered a finer case. Obviously, it costs more, but they have delivered the case that I essentially wanted a few months ago. I like Phanteks Evolv ATX Temper Glass Edition a huge amount. It is a very good case indeed. But then I like the previous case in terms of the structure and what you could do with it. But these glass panels, yes indeedy, like a lot. It is not quite perfect. The combination of the aluminium top with the slotted sort of vents and these stealth intakes at the front and the full-length air filter and the glass sides means it is not particularly quiet. But that depends a huge amount on how you use it. If you go the all-in-one route as I have here, along with air-cooled graphics card, it is relatively noisy. On the other hand, if you go custom loop and liquid-cooled graphics, it's a different proposition entirely based on my own PC. I would expect you to get temperatures below 40 Celsius, but also very, very quiet. That is significant. Again, however, how you build your PC affects the outcome enormously. If you want to hang on to these drive bays in the front, these 3.5, 2.5 inch drive sleds, then you're going to be putting your radiator in the roof of the case, or you're going to be using a smallish radiator, freeing up some of the bays. On the other hand, if you want to go full length radiator at the front, that means that these bays are effectively out of action. So you're putting your storage around the back in the two bays here, and the various SSD little drop and lock bays, the two here and the one there. That gives you plenty of options, but it is something to be considered. Overall, it works. I wouldn't mind a couple more cable tie-down points. I'd like them to sort out these Phanteks hook and loop straps, which are the wrong way up. Beyond that, the only other gripe is that the RGB lighting, which is cutesy, I like it, but it could be better. And I have every faith that Phanteks could make it better. They could come up with their own version of NZXE's Hue Plus, I'm quite sure of that. So certainly there is some scope for improvement, but as things stand, this is a good case that gives you many options. Please go for the custom loop rather than the all-in-one. You do need to do a tidy build, but hey ho, a bit of work won't kill you. And the results are very good indeed. Pricing can't complain. Overall, I am very, very pleased with the Phanteks Evolv ATX Tempered Glass Edition. I'm Leo Waldrop for Kit Guru.